Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Make It and Break It. It's cold, which is why I have all of this on. I did want to do a quick thing. We're on the phone because I forgot everything in the house today because I'm running around trying to get everything done before crazy stuff happens. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Coronavirus is maybe not necessarily super serious for people like me, but for people like my parents and people with compromised immune systems, it can be a very serious thing. So stay inside if you don't need to, and try and keep everyone around you safe and healthy. So we're gonna try and do that here. We're making one last trip out for some supplies to try and keep us going while the world ends. So we're making a quick trip out, get some food, get some final fabrication supplies, and bringing you along on the phone because I forgot. All right, one store down. Got some aluminum welding rod back there and some nitrile gloves. Apparently there's a run on nitrile gloves, which is actually something that makes sense as something in coronavirus land. Also, there's no respirators, but these are particulate anyway. So you can only buy 4 packs of nitrile gloves at a time, which I find, sure, why not? Still need a couple fabrication tools, so we're off to Home Depot for some of those. Here we go. This will come in handy in a bit. So in contrast with a Costco trip earlier, or last week, why is there a shuttle bus here? There's some missing shelves here. Basically, all the rice gone. And here too, wine is just fine. Don't worry, Mrs. M&B. It's safe. Good morning, everyone. Feeling a bit rough this morning. Hold on, let's get these lights on. My hair is amazing. It's because, well, Seattle under quarantine still knows how to party.
Well.
Anyway, time to do the morning routine. Ooh, what a rough morning. Man, I just traded like an idiot, but I made money. Let's hope I don't reinforce any bad habits. Alright, so I'm gonna let you guys behind the camera a little bit. It's taken me a couple days to get going on this video, including the intros you guys have seen. And because I'm actually, oh, that's bright, kind of nervous. Despite having been an engineer and for a while been a welding engineer and dealt with a lot of welders, my actual welding and fabrication skills are rarely used until recently. So dealing with aluminum has me a little intimidated, but we're gonna get it done. So we're hopefully building a skid plate today, and well, let's go. Luckily it's aluminum, which means we can use generally regular hand tools. I don't have to go get a plasma cutter to cut aluminum plate, but we're gonna give this a shot and see how it goes. Maybe we could start a fire or two anyway.
Waking up anew, wasting time is all I do. But now when I'm with you, so much time, nothing to do. I'm dropping you texts now.
This is a PSA. Always check your measurements before you cut, because once you cut, you can't go back. I was checking my fitment here in our, let's close this, so Joey doesn't come out here among the the metal chips and stuff, I was checking my pieces in our jig here, and I found something off. So let me show you that. So here's our jig, and I have set things into here. So this is our main piece, our main plate up here. And then these are both supposed to be, this one here and this piece here, are both supposed to be the side pieces. And I cut everything this way specifically so I wouldn't have to check the lengths and have to adjust for some off lengths on this side. So I cut these into one, I cut these, all three of these came from one major cut along our 24-inch piece, and then I just sectioned them off. So I only had to cut the length once. But you can see this setup is actually kind of what I was intending. So when this stuff comes together, get in here, you see, well, I've been moving things around a little bit, but as this thing sits in here, and if this had the bottom front piece here, this would be a little bit easier to position. You can see this edge. This is an outside corner edge that's eminently weldable. If you're good at welding, I'm not, but we'll give it a shot. And that's kind of the fit up I imagined with this jig. So you have an outside corner, you adjust these things so you get the right sort of fit up you like, tack things together, pull everything apart, and then you can weld it all together. However, on this side, that is a huge gap. That's, I mean, I can go like this, but then like none of the pieces here, well, if this was slid to the side so that it was properly set up, I could go like that. But if I push up like this, okay, yeah, cool. That sets up there, but that's not how I intended this jig to use. And I was wondering, why was that happening? Well, I went in and checked my CAD model, and there's a difference here. So I cut these based on what I thought the measurement was, but I didn't check it first. So the length of this side, so this specific piece length is 4.5 inches, and I knew that, and that was sticking out in my head. And I had always just had it stuck in my head that this side was also 4.5 inches, but it's actually not. This side, here to here, is supposed to be 4 3/4 inches, which is why we have this 1/4 inch gap in our pieces. And if it was 4 3/4 inches, everything would sit a lot better. So I screwed it up, and I didn't check my measurements before I cut everything. So now we're gonna have to make it up. So I think what we're gonna do is take this and chop off this section here and make it the front piece. And then I'm not sure what we're gonna do with this one yet. We'll see. I might try and just make a separate front piece here and then use this piece to make the various corner sections and things. So yeah, always check your measurements, everyone. Okay, this is a nice setup we got going here, if I do say so myself. Get the sun set going on, you can work out of your garage. You know, this mobile workbench coming in handy. But we've got everything roughly cut out and into our jig, and you can kind of see it sort of coming together. So we have our side pieces in, and then our front pieces are in there. We've done a couple things that we're going to have to massage up here, and that is, well, this edge, this piece is not fitting super great, and I think it's because of this cut. So on both the straight edge here. So I flipped it over and had the straight edge, which is this outside edge here, touch it up here, and this rougher edge. We can put a big gap on the back here. You can see that maybe. Let's get a focus on it. There we go. And in this case, there's even a big gap on the front. But if you want to do that, it actually rotates around the center section. So it looks like when I was cutting this piece, I got a little wide right here. So we'll have to do a little fitment, but that sort of fitment is kind of part and parcel with all of this stuff. You notice there's some light coming through there, and I've got to bevel a lot of these edges so you can get access with the welding torch. And then up here, this connection is we can get down in here, we'll get a little bit of side action. You can see how that's not working perfect right now. So we've got to fit a lot of this stuff so that it sits down a little bit lower. And I think that's because I left this bottom piece a little long. So we'll have to go in and skim some of that down. But we have a visitor.
Hi, everybody.
So we might do that in a little bit once I say hi.
Hi.
Well, all right. We've got everything mostly set up, and I kind of like how we have it mostly fit. So you can see as we're looking at this thing, this fitment is a lot better now that we've kind of conditioned and fit these edges up a little bit better. Once we get this up in here and fit properly, there we go. You can see that these edges fit up nice, and that's a pretty good outside groove weld we're going to deal with there. And then all of these edges seem to fit in pretty good. We're going to have to do a little bit of cleaning on this one. You can see some marking and some acetone. We're going to have to hit this with some acetone. But everything here now seems to fit pretty good. Now this side, I have it flipped from when I showed you previously. This side was the side with the bulge, and that bulge is better, but it's still not great. You can see this big gap near the end. So we're going to have to deal with that somehow. My best idea is to tack this in here once we get to it, is to throw ahead our tacks maybe here and here, and then maybe bend this edge just a little bit to get it back over there, which will be easier because we still haven't finished this part yet, but we're gonna do that in a bit. First thing we got to do though is practice. So I used to work. So, spoilers, I used to work in an industrial facility, and I spent a year-ish, year and a half-ish, doing a tour with our weld engineers, who were all hugely intelligent and smart people, and I got to spend time with a bunch of smart weld engineers as well as a bunch of really good welders. At my old job, our welders had to weld a lot of really weird crap in really weird positions. We'd spend years getting welders up to our standards so that we would allow them to go work at the work site. And one of the tips that I picked up from them, and just a good tip in general, is before you go weld anything, really, you do want to make sure you're up and going. It's like warming up or stretching. You do want to get your welding stretching going on. And now what they would normally use is, what they would normally use is something like this. So this is a test qualification sample, something like that, or at least it's similar to ones we would use, where it's two pieces. So you got a main piece, and this piece in here sits in there. This would be used for something like a fillet or a seal weld or something like that. So before they go weld, they would grab maybe a couple of these things or a similar test or qualification piece for whatever type of weld they're doing, and practice that before they went welding. And in fact, they would have to prove that they were qualified to even do that on similar pieces like that. So at your shop, you're not going to be doing that. You don't have to prove you're qualified. We don't have to go section and macro etch and all of that stuff your weld to make sure you're getting the right amount of penetration. There's no, root extensions or any other crazy stuff. But you really should do a little practice for your hand. So that's what I have this setup for. So this is just a little bit of the aluminum we had left over there, some just sitting up on top of the air compressor there, that we cut into a couple pieces, and we're going to make into something that resembles our actual welds. So our welds, if you're looking at this thing, these are outside corner welds. You know, the ideal position is to come in here and weld at this corner. So the ideal way to weld this is to come in here, bring your torch in, and weld along these corners here. And that'll give us a nice, hopefully, if we do it right, and I probably won't, but if we do it right, it'll give you a nice smooth surface on the outside here, and then we can clean up the inside if we feel like it, but the inside won't be subjected to any of the sort of stuff. So we want to keep ourselves relatively smooth on the outside for like skidding along logs and things. So we set this one up like this. So we got a bunch of our, 90-degree welding clamps here, and we set ourselves up, if we can get that to focus on it, kind of an outside corner joint like that. That's roughly similar to the ones we'll be welding on the skid plate. So the idea here is we tack this in place, do some practicing on this, practice our groove weld or outside corner weld here, and then we put real welds on that thing. So let's go. Well, that's a disaster. Alright, so you can see I'm in my semi-serious fabrication clothes as opposed to like my normal hoodie. I wear this pretty much because I don't want to, burn holes in things that I actually enjoy. It's a little bit later. I'm like a day or two since the last clip, and I've been doing some more practice welding. So my first practice that I showed you, that would have been, well, this side and this side of this piece here. It went poorly. The last video, or one of the previous videos last week, I think when this one's going to come out, you saw the edge here. That was bad. So I was not comfortable with the way I was welding that, so I actually made some more test pieces. So I made another piece that was originally like this piece, just a little L bracket, and then I actually cut it on the bandsaw to check out like just a place where I thought the weld was decent, at least, and it turns out it's pretty decent. Over penetration a little bit. I probably melted the edge more than I needed to, but the weld itself and the joint itself is pretty strong, and I tried to break it and I couldn't break it on the vise there. So that was pretty cool, and I'll get you some close-ups of this stuff here. So those joints, pretty decent, and I actually came up with a couple other decent ones when I cut it apart and re-welded it back together. Funny enough, if you're doing random practice welding and stuff like that, you can do actual welding projects. So this was my flat plate practice piece and then my corner piece, and I now have a torch holder. So that's gonna come in handy. Finally, I went and ordered some coupons so I don't keep wasting my fabrication material. So I went and ordered some aluminum 1/8" coupons from Weld Metals Online or something like that. I'll put a link in the description down below to their website where I ordered them. And I made myself a square. So I actually took 4 of these welding coupons and stuck them side by side and welded them all together and gave myself 4 4 edge welds to make. And there's mixed results in here, to be sure. Some of these are not amazing. This one here, I'm particularly not proud of. It starts off too cold, has like one section right here where I'm comfortable with the way the weld looks, and then it just gets too hot and I didn't control the amperage properly with the pedal, and it just blows out and it's not amazing. I managed to like cover the hole, but like that's not good weld. It's not actually structurally useful in any way, shape, or form. But I do have a lot of sections, like a lot of this weld is actually really good, and this weld's a little cold. I can tell because there's no penetration on the backside in here. This weld is a bit cold for most of it, but I actually am starting to get the hang of it. So I think it's about time we'll bring the skid plate over here, get ourselves one final practice coupon setup going, and start sticking our skid plate together. And progress update. We are mostly in a position where it kind of looks like a skid plate now. At least kind of what we were thinking the skid plate would look like. I was gonna like show some of the junky welds and the not so junky welds. I haven't welded anything on this side, so anything you see coming through like these areas is penetration from the weld from the other side. But right now I'm trying to get these last corner pieces in, and it's real janky. So I've got like C-clamps in here, mostly holding it in place relative to, it's a special clamp here. So we're gonna try and get these things tacked into place so I can finish up the welds on these last corner pieces here, this last transition piece here, and that corner piece over there. And then probably weld the back sides on a lot of these things, just to make sure that we have good strength in the weld. You can see like some of these areas I didn't really get good penetration through. So if we weld from both sides, we'll make sure that we have a good, solid, strong piece, so that if we hit something, it probably won't break too badly. So let's try and finish this up and see if we can't, get ourselves a skid plate. Well, that's 3 minutes of memory storage I'm never getting back. Alright, so I'm out of my serious business clothes and into my more normal daily business clothes. Even got my preferred PPE on, and well, that means only one of two things. One, I've decided to give up my life of leisure and luxury, give away all of my worldly possessions, join a convent and become a nun. Or two, we're done. We've finished it, and it's sitting here. Those of you who noticed this earlier, we actually have finished our skid plate. So we ended up making it out of aluminum, as you may have been able to gather, and with varying levels of success. So there's welds on here that I think would count as competent, I would say. There's welds on here that I would count bad, but probably functional. And then there's whatever the hell I did here to cover up this giant hole. And this brings me to a confession. This is basically my first aluminum welding project, so I don't expect it to turn out great. I am a little disappointed with the results though. And some of that's just because, well, I kind of come from a fabrication background where these sorts of welds would never, like, you'd get thrown out of apprenticeship for having these sorts of welds. And the fitment was not ideal. And some of that comes from kind of a lesson I learned on this, and that I would do the next time I'm trying to build something like this, is I would actually build a different type of fixturing device. Instead of building a fixturing device that everything slots into, kind of like the ones I built, I'd build more of a cup style that we could set all the pieces in. So I could set everything in and tack it in from the inside before I do the exterior outside corner joints and groove welds and stuff like that, so that I'd get a more consistent fit and have more consistent surfaces to weld on. I did not have that here, which probably contributed to some of the issues we're seeing for the fabrication here, but you know, also I'm not good at aluminum welding, or probably any welding, let's be honest, but I'm gonna at least try. So we have it in here. We haven't yet figured out how we're gonna fully fixture this thing. I just got a jack under it right now, and it looks pretty good actually. If we take a little walk around here, I'm actually pretty happy with the areas it covers. It covers all of the vital areas of the bike that I was really worried about it covering, and provides with a pretty decent, you know, I would call it a fairly decent protective surface for the bottom of our bike. I have not done any finish grinding on this or anything to make it look good. I'm kind of liking the Mad Max feel of it, the like exposed weld sort of thing. We might paint it just because I'm not sure how good a raw aluminum is going to look on this bike when it gets finished, but we'll leave it as it is for now, because what's worth painting something I haven't tested yet? If it shatters on the first time I hit something, then, well, we've got to go build another one. But we're done. I think we're going to leave that here for this video. We'll pick this skid plate stuff back up. Oh, that, I remember why I don't use that jack anymore. It's already going down. We'll pick this skid plate stuff up again when we get the mounting, and then we're also going to start doing the fabrication for our crash bars, which will pretty much make this bike off-road proof as long as I can build it right. So I'll see you guys back on the next video. Thanks for watching. My name's Andrew. This is another Make and Break YouTube video. Like, comment, subscribe. We do motorcycles, cars, motorsports, 3D printing technology, all the sorts of stuff. Check out our videos. Click that bell icon so you get notified when we put out a new video. That was all in the wrong order, but I don't care. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll catch you later.